Okay, y'all, in this lesson, we are going to learn to identify sound devices in poetry. Before we get rolling, I want you to take out your composition notebook and open to the grammar and craft section. As you watch, I want you to take notes on the definitions of the 6 types of sound devices that we learn about. The first 2 are rhythm and rhyme. Rhythm and rhyme are the most common sound devices. In fact, you've seen rhythm and rhyme in literature since you were a baby. The example I'm going to use is actually from my daughter's favorite board book currently, Little Blue Truck. So let's take a look at Little Blue Truck, and then we'll talk about rhythm and rhyme. Little Blue Truck came down the road. Beep, said Blue to a big green toad. Toad said croak and winked an eye when Little Blue Truck went rolling by. Rhythm is the beat of the poem. Rhythm is really easy to hear in a poem, and it's really hard to see. Rhythm is created through a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables, and learning to identify that pattern is a whole lesson in itself, so we're not going to worry about it right now. But as a reader, I do want for you to listen for the beat of the poem. I want you to listen for the poem's rhythm. Rhyme is when 2 words have the same internal or ending sound, and we see that clearly in Little Blue Truck. Little Blue Truck came down the road. Beep, said Blue to a big green toad. Road and toad rhyme. Toad said croak and winked an eye when Little Blue Truck went rolling by. I and by rhyme. Rhythm and rhyme are 2 sound devices that we're not going to spend a ton of time playing with in this unit, and that's because they are so common. I would love for you to get to try on and get to look at some of the sound devices that aren't as common in poetry and that you probably haven't had an opportunity to play with. So the next 4 are going to be 4 that I want you to really focus on in this lesson. The 3 we're going to look at right now, we actually saw in Susan Rich's poem earlier this week. So the first was repetition. Repetition is when a poet repeats the same word or phrase. And we saw that all throughout Susan Rich's poem. Because hemlock, because humans who plant Sungold tomatoes and build boats from cedar and oak. Because I picked you from all 50 states with my valentine of sweet onions and jazz apples, because the rain. Susan Rich uses repetition with the word because throughout her poem. Alliteration is 2 or more words that have the same starting letter sound. We also saw this in each stanza of Susan Rich's poem. Because tumbleweed and tulip, because wine and walla walla. The t sound in tumbleweed and tulip, and the w sound in wine and walla walla, that's alliteration. Assonance is similar to alliteration. It's when 2 or more words have the same internal vowel sound, but it's a lot harder to hear and see. So we see this in Susan Rich's poem, but not quite as often. Because flocks of joggers along Alki Beach, the ah sound, okay, we see in flocks and joggers, right? That's assonance. Sungold tomatoes build boats from cedar and oak, right? That is also assonance, that O sound, boats and oak. All 3 of these are types of sound devices the author used to create a sound in their poem, but also to change the meaning of their poem. The final sound device that we're going to look at is onomatopoeia. This is a really fun sound device. We didn't see it in Susan Rich's poem. Onomatopoeia is a word that actually sounds like the sound it refers to. If we look at some examples, right, there are machine noises, honk, beep, vroom, clang, zap, boing. The impact sounds, boom, crash, whack, thump, bang. Sounds of the voice, shh, giggle, growl, whine, murmur, blurt, whisper, hiss. Or nature sounds, splash, drip, spray, whoosh, buzz, rustle. All of these sounds are onomatopoeia. They sound like the word, when we say it, sounds like the sound it's referring to. So let's look at an example. This is from Todd Rundgren. He is a poet. He's not a Washington State poet, but he's a great poet. His poem is called Onomatopoeia. So let's listen to it. Onomatopoeia, every time I see ya. My senses tell me hubba, and I just can't disagree. I get a feeling in my heart that I can't describe. It's sort of whack, whir, wheeze, whine, sputter, splat, squirt, scrape, clink, clink, clunk, clatter, crash, bang, beep, buzz, ring, rip, roar, retch, twang, toot, twinkle, thud, pop, plop, plunk, pow, snort, snuck, sniff, smack, screech, splash, squish, squeak, jingle, rattle, squeal, boing, honk, hoot, hack, belch. Super fun poem to read, super hard to read. It's like a tongue twister. But onomatopoeia is a great sound device that you can play with in your own poetry, and then I would love for you to look at in the poems that we're working with today and throughout the rest of this unit. So here's your task. I want you to read Seattle's poem by Claudia Castro Luna. Claudia Castro Luna is actually currently our poet laureate in Washington State. She's a native writer. And I want you to read it out loud with your partner. And as you read it, I want you to mark any sound devices that you notice. So I want you to notice repetition, alliteration, assonance, onomatopoeia. Task 2, after you've done that, I want for you to write a poem using at least 2 of the sound devices that you learned today. And I want you to focus on these 4. You absolutely can use rhythm and rhyme, but use at least 2 of these 4, repetition, alliteration, assonance, or onomatopoeia. And if you're struggling with a topic, one of the easiest ways to play with sound devices, I think, topics is writing about a hobby, something that actually like makes noise when we write about it. So choose like a sport that you play, a hobby like knitting that you do, something that makes a noise, so that you can really play with the noises in poetry. Okay, have a lot of fun today. We are going to work with Claudia Castro Luna's poem again tomorrow, looking at meaning, but today I just want you to hear it and focus on the sound of it. Okay, get started.